As of last week, I officially have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is just absolutely insane to me. The fact that 1,000 human beings have decided to subscribe to me and listen to me yap on non-stop for over 20 minutes every single week is genuinely crazy to me. I know people have become really obsessed with numbers recently and they think that like 1,000 is a tiny number, but really, genuinely, truly, think about walking into a room and there's 1,000 people there ready for you to speak at them and they actually want to listen to what you say. That is a truly stupendous amount of numbers. Oh my god. So in honor of that, I posted on my YouTube community and on my Instagram story saying that I would do a Q&A for 1,000 subscribers. And I did that, and you guys submitted a lot more questions than I thought I could handle, but they're here and I'm gonna answer them, so let's just jump right into it. So the first question, and perhaps one of my favourites because it's in light of one of my first videos that I ever posted on YouTube, it's when am I going to read Shrek fanfic part 2? And that is in light of Get in My Swamp, the book that I made a review about, which was simultaneously one of the worst and one of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life. Worst because, what the fuck was that? Best because what the fuck was that? It was genuinely one of my favourite books to read this year so far, and I just didn't realise that people wanted a part 2. But if people do want a part 2 other than this one creator, genuinely let me know down below, because I really want to read part 2. So if you want a part 2, let me know and I will read the sequel to that book and I will post it. This one says, it's not a question, but I should react to more movies and TV series adapted from books, which is still on booktube brand. And that is 100% my intention. I will be doing that. I enjoy doing reaction videos so much, an unbelievable amount, and I intend on doing more. I'm planning on doing a House of the Dragon reaction because I've never watched House of the Dragon, so I'll be doing season 1 and then season 2. I can't do Game of Thrones because I've already watched the entire series, so it's too late, and I'm not going to sit here and lie on camera about my reactions. I could very easily actually rewatch season 1 and 2 of Game of Thrones because I didn't understand a single thing that was going on in that show for those seasons, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do House of the Dragon because that's what people care about right now. It's very timely. And I intend on doing it with a lot more, you know, book to TV adaptations, not any that have already come out because I've already watched all of them. And again, I'm not going to lie to you, but thank you very much for that. I'm very glad that you're enjoying it because I'm having so much fun doing it, even though it takes me 65 bajillion years to film and edit. But it's so fun for me and I will keep doing that. The same person saying, my Bridgerton reactions are so funny, so more of those reactions would be cool. That's sort of in light of what I just answered, but thank you very much. I had so much fun doing them. I was supposed to be releasing my reaction to the final 2 episodes of Bridgerton today. Unfortunately, I had a lot of technical issues with the camera and the SD card, and the camera failed and the SD card failed and I lost some of my footage, but I'm in the process of recovering it. I'm not a tech whiz, so it's taking me a while, but that footage will be done and it will be recovered, and my reaction to episode 7 and 8 will be out next Thursday, so stay tuned. Would you rather have legs the size of fingers or fingers the size of legs? Thank you so much for such an insightful question, and I have thought long and hard about it, and my answer is that I would rather die. I would rather die than answer any of those questions. So, how was the transition from TikTok to YouTube? Believe it or not, despite what people say, I have enjoyed it a lot more. I love TikTok. I love BookTok. It truly is what brought me back into the book community after I completely removed myself for years. For context, I did English at university twice, and I did English all throughout my A-levels. For people who don't know what that is junior and senior year of high school. The final 2 years of school where you just focus on like specific things. I did English literature and English language, and then I went on and I did 3 years of it for my undergrad, and then I did 1 year of it for my master's. And during that time, I completely removed myself from reading for fun and the reading community, because once you have to do something that you're being tested on and graded on and examined on, you don't really enjoy it much as a hobby. And TikTok and BookTok is really what drew me back into it. And I love it, and I will forever be grateful for that platform that I have on TikTok. However, I do feel like BookTok has become a little bit too monetized right now. Every time I open BookTok, it's either an ad or a promotion or a PR thing. And as much as I love that, again, I appreciate it, and I get invited to these things and I get sent to them and I love it so much. But I feel like with TikTok, if you're not doing an ad and you're not doing a promotion, or you're not just talking about one specific thing, which is dark romance or extremely, you know, visceral and graphic and violent smut, your videos just aren't being pushed anymore. The algorithm is very pick and choosy. It favorites some people and it doesn't favor others. And recently, TikTok has become far more difficult for me to use. I still love it. I still go on it. I still like to see what my mutuals say and what my friends say, but YouTube has felt a lot more like a community to me, which is why 1,000 subscribers on YouTube to me means the same as when I hit my first 10,000 on TikTok, because, on TikTok, some people will just scroll on a video and just follow you. Subscribing on YouTube is a lot more intentional, so I really appreciate that, and I'm so grateful for YouTube. I will say it takes longer. Editing YouTube videos, making sure everything falls into community guidelines, everything falls in with compliances. With like my video reactions, I have to make sure I'm not copywriting anything. So, on average, a reaction video or a book reaction video sometimes takes me about 3 to 4 hours to edit, which is it's a lot of work, but it's so worth it for me, even if I only end up getting 200 views, because I have so much fun doing it. I feel like I'm just speaking to my friends, and I know that the people who are watching my videos on YouTube are here because they care about it and they've chosen to select the video and they've chosen to watch it and listen to it, as opposed to just being on TikTok and my video coming on their page and swiping past it. So I love TikTok so much, and I love the Book Talk community, and so many of my closest friends right now I've actually met through Book Talk, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the transition to YouTube, and I'm hoping that I will continue to build this community on YouTube because I'm so grateful for it. And I love it. Never in my life, I've been on TikTok. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on about this question, but I've been on TikTok since January 2021. I've been posting on TikTok, and never in my life has anyone ever, like any of my followers, anyone that's ever seen me on TikTok, never in my life has anyone ever approached me or DM'd me or messaged me to say, I love your videos, I love this, I love that, which obviously I don't expect. I'm not a celebrity, but I'm just doing in terms of the comparison of the YouTube community, where before I even hit 1,000 subscribers, I had a few people just finding my Instagram, which is linked down below, by the way. It's just bookish with B _ finding my Instagram and messaging me to tell me how much they loved one of my videos, or if they disagreed with one of my opinions, or if they agreed with one of my opinions, or asking when part 2 of a certain video is going to be coming out. And that it makes me feel seen in a way that TikTok never did. It makes me feel, on TikTok I just felt like a commodity where people just absorbed this video and swiped past, and it felt just a little tiny bit dehumanizing. Whereas on YouTube, there are these people reaching out to me, so don't hesitate to do that. When people reach out to me in my DMs, I really, 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 really enjoy it, and I've actually become friends with a few of the people who have done it. So I really like the community of booktube. So the transition has been a lot easier than I expected. So thank you to all of you for that. Are you seeing anyone? Wouldn't you like to know whether boy? Why? Are you interested? Heart or mind? Well, I am usually incapable of using either. So what I like to do is think about what a fictional character would do in my situation and whether or not I would be angry or annoyed with them. And that is how I make a lot of decisions. But I'd like to say mind, because my heart is a fucking idiot. So that's my answer. Best book of the year so far. I've not read very good books this year, Let me consult the books I've read this year. Look, I've loved all the books. Okay, that's a lie. I'm exaggerating. I've read a lot of books this year, and a lot of them have been good. But best? If I'm being completely honest, and I hate to say this, the book I most enjoyed reading this year was the Shrek fanfic, Get in My Swamp. And I feel like that says a lot about all of the other books that I've read. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad. Like, some of them have been 4-star reads. I just didn't think about them once I put the book down. Do you know what I have thought about? Shrek's green schlong. So I'll say my answer to that is Get in My Swamp, the Shrek fanfiction. Oh, I love this question because I love talking about this. Do you visit Lebanon often, and what are your favourite things to do in Lebanon? I do visit Lebanon often. Before, when I was younger, it used to be every single summer, and then once I got to my GCSEs, A-levels and university times, it used to be every other summer or every 2 summers. And then COVID happened and lockdown happened and we weren't allowed to travel and things were just very difficult, and then the revolution happened and the explosion and the fires and things started getting, really intense there. So I couldn't visit for almost 2.5, 3 years. And I went again in January 2021. And then I went again summer 2021. And then I went summer 2022. January 2022, summer 2022, summer 2023. And then it's just gotten really difficult to keep me away. I am hoping to go this summer, but as we all know, that's proving to be a little bit difficult. But I'm still really hoping to go because I truly feel like a piece of me is missing when I miss out on a summer in Lebanon, which is crazy to me because when I speak about Lebanon, I actually speak about home. I'm like, yeah, I'm going back home, or I'm visiting home, or I'm going to be home for the summer, but I've never actually lived in Lebanon, unless you consider 3-month-long summers, but I've never actually lived there, but I always call it home because it's the one place that always truly feels like home, it feels like home. For context, I am an immigrant, but I immigrated from a different country, not from Lebanon. Why did I give that detail? I didn't grow up in this country. I moved here almost, 13 years ago, but just not from Lebanon. Anyway, you didn't need to know that. The question is, do I visit Lebanon often? Which is, I'm trying to visit as often as I possibly can. I just never visit in the winter. I visited once. I'm not a fan of it. It's too cold. It's kind of like leaving London and going back to London, except the houses there are marble. So just very chilly. And one of my favorite things to do in Lebanon. My favorite things to do in Lebanon are act like a tourist because, like I said, I never lived there. I've only been there for the summers, and I spent up until 2022, I never really did much other than spend time with my family, in our town, in our village, in our small cities. All I did was visit family, visit old friends, and go to the beach. And 2022 was sort of the, why am I getting so confused? 2022 was the catalyst summer because I finally had a friend group, more people to see, more people to take me out, and my friend's dad always takes us out on these tourist expeditions. We go for hikes in places called Shuwen, which is like this beautiful lake and river or whatever. It's a lake, and all the water is freezing cold because it's all the melted ice from the mountains. And then we go to Ha'ura, which is waterfalls again, melted ice from the mountains. So my favorite things to do in Lebanon is the most touristy stuff to do that are outside of Beirut and outside of the small cities. And, just seeing the lakes and the rivers and the waterfalls and the beaches, because in my opinion, Lebanon truly is one of the most beautiful countries in the entire world. And every single time I go there, I see something I haven't seen before. And I have so much fun and I have the greatest time. And just being around people who are speaking Arabic and eating Arabic food and having Arab breakfasts and drinking tea all the time. It's just being in a community and seeing my country in ways I haven't seen before. That is my favorite thing to do in Lebanon. And immediately followed after it is just waking up in the morning and having breakfast with my grandparents. It's just, you really can't beat it. And it's why I try my hardest to be in Lebanon every summer, because I would love to spend as much time as possible out with my grandparents. And as an adult, spending time with them and speaking to them in ways that a child wouldn't, I'm finding out so much about their lives and finding out that they're actually really funny people. And I enjoy spending time with them so much. And it always makes me sound so old and not cool, My favorite routine in Lebanon normally is when I go back to the village and I wake up in the morning and I have tea and breakfast with my grandma, and then I go to the beach and then I come back and I have lunch and tea with my grandma, and then, she goes in for a nap, and that's when I do my reading and my this and my that, and then I go out with my cousins and I come home and I have, I sit with my grandma while she has dinner because she's having an early dinner, and then I go out with my cousins or my friends and I come home and she's asleep, and then I wake up the next day and I do it all over again. It's just, it's fulfilling for me. So I hope that really long-winded, complicated answered your question. Next question, كيفك جواد؟ والله تعبان وهلكان والحياة مدمرة والبلد مدمرة وعم بفجر لكنا.
كيفك جواد؟
مقيرة من تاك اخت الدنيا، صار 3 اشهر مش عم طلع ولا ليرة، وحاسس انه ضيعت حياتي كلها اخر 7-8 سنين، واخذت wrong decision making بحياتي.
You're only allowed to read from one author for the rest of your life. Who would that be? Why don't you just tell me you hate me? Why don't you just tell me you want me dead instead of asking me a question that I'm physically incapable of answering? What the fuck type of question is that? Only one author for the rest of my life. Let me think about it. Okay, I'm not going to give you one author. I'm going to give you one author based off of certain segments and categories. So if I wanted to read an author who was going to mentally and literarily and politically stimulate me, who I feel like has never said a bad word in his life, it would be James Baldwin. I have him here. I have 2 signs of his posted on that wall, and I have him tattooed on my arm. James Baldwin, I love you. They could never make me hate you. There possibly isn't one important political movement in life that he hasn't at least briefly touched on. And also, he's just a fantastic author. So for that category, it would be James Baldwin. In terms of just style of writing that is so immersive that I melt into it and I fall into it every single time I read it, Madeline Miller. Only read 2.5 books. I say 2.5 because that other book was bloody 50 pages long. I've only read those because those are the only books she's let out, but I think she's a fucking incredible author, and I have never picked up a book of hers and been able to put it down in terms of writing style. However, based purely off it's the rest of my life and I need a long and thick discography, it would have to be like George R. Martin or Brandon Sanderson, or just one of them, purely because they have written 65... It would be Brandon Sanderson. It would be Brandon Sanderson because he actually keeps putting the books out. But he's written about 65 billion books. So I could read all of them. And by the time, I've run out of books to read and I want to reread, mate, I've already forgotten it because I've been reading 65,000 books. So those are my 3 answers. Favorite all-time read? Again, just tell me to kill myself. Just tell me to kill myself. I've genuinely just forgotten every book I've ever read. Suddenly, I've never read a book in my entire life. Favorite all-time read? Oh my god. It's a Court of Thorns Roses. I don't know. Because I have so many favorite books, and each of them is a favorite because of the way it's made me feel, the way it's done for me, the time in my life that I've read this book. So I don't know if I can answer that question. I'll say books that got me into reading: the Hush Hush series and the Hunger Games series. The first book that truly made me scream and cry and rip my heart out, The Song of Achilles. A book that I've never been able to stop thinking about since the moment I read it, Beasts of No Nation. Book that really got me into deciding what I wanted to do my final thesis at university was 13 Cents. Oh my god, I know. Hello. Alone with You in the Ether. Alone with You in the Ether is genuinely like, oh my god, it's just gotten really dark. Let me turn the light on. Is it like too bright now? Okay, I'm going to film this question in this light and then I'm just going to check the lighting. But Alone with You in the Ether is one of my all-time top 5 or top 10 books I've ever read in my entire life. I've done an entire review of this on my YouTube. I've also done an entire review of it on my TikTok, and I've written a review of it on Goodreads and on my Instagram. So if you don't want to just listen to me ramble on about it, then just go to those, because I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be. But that book made me feel seen in ways I didn't know I needed to be seen. I've never thought I needed to see myself in books. I thought I can read the book, but that's because I look the way that I am. But it made me feel seen in ways I didn't know I needed to be seen. And it also taught me so much about, love and mental illness, and struggling in relationships with love and mental illness, and how mental illness isn't the definitive factor of a relationship, and mental illness isn't the way that you define the way that you behave. Just because you have this mental illness doesn't mean you need to do this in a relationship. You have this mental illness and you do this in a relationship, and they're separate. And I really loved it. Olivia Blake is one of my all-time favourite authors in the entire world. And I would have chosen her for that I'm only allowed to read one author, but just Brandon Sanderson's discography, mate. We're talking about the rest of my life. Okay, I think I've fixed the lighting. I'm so unbelievably sorry if I haven't. What brings you joy in reading? Reading a really shitty book and finding people who absolutely hated it and talking about it. That's one of the things that brings me so much joy in reading. Like, when I read a book I really, really expected so much from, and then I realise it's actually really shit and I hate everything about it, and then I meet my little community of that book hater or that author hater. Oh my god, there truly is nothing greater than it in life. But other than that, I'll give you like the wholesome thing, which is what really got me into reading and the reason I loved it and I stuck to it and I decided to do it, for the rest of my life, basically, there is something, and the typical answer is the escapism of it. And the escapism of it 100% is it. I love just reading a book and just pretending like I don't exist in this world anymore, which is why I love reading fantasy so much, because I can just truly just remove myself from this world. But I think just slightly removed from the escapism of it, it's also the fact that you are escaping the world, but you're not escaping the nuances of the world, and you're not escaping the complexities of the world, because I don't care what anyone says, reading an art is absolutely, in every sense of the word, political. Everything you read is political and is reflective of a certain opinion or a certain belief or a certain system, or it's a commentary, or it's an ode to something, and that is something I adore. I love picking up a book that has nothing to do with real life. It's about elves with tails who, breathe green smoke, but it still discusses, like the laws of colonization and socialism and you know, this versus this. That is one of my favorite things to do, which is why I wanted to study at university, because I wanted to look at the way fiction was so good at emulating real life and was so good at emulating political nuance without very outwardly poking you in the nose with it. That is one of my favorite things about reading. If your life were a movie, what would be the title and who would play you? So let me just tell you a little story. When growing up, I was a bit of a narcissist. So I actually just imagined myself in every movie played by all of the sexiest actresses in the world. Let me show you what I looked like at the time. Anyway, so at the time I decided I was going to be an author and I was going to write a #1 New York Times best-selling series, book dystopian magical series. Dystopian fantasy, whatever. I was going to write this popular series that everyone was obsessed with. It was going to be bigger than the Hunger Games. And then I was only going to sell the TV and movie rights to this book if they agreed to put me in charge of casting. And then I would cast myself as the protagonist. So I wrote the book. And I wrote the first 100 pages of this book. And it was the most obvious self-insert ever. Like, it was very clear that I was writing this book because I wanted it to be made into a movie and I wanted to cast myself as it. But it was the vainest, most narcissistic description of a woman I've ever seen in my life. So I don't have an answer to that, because the answer at the time was the movie wouldn't be about my life. It would be about fantasy and I would be the main character. But if there was a movie about my life, I wouldn't watch it, because I wouldn't watch that. I would hate that. So I don't know how to answer this question. Fave summer read so far. What if I told you I haven't read anything this summer and now you've really hurt my feelings? What if I told you that? What if I told you I now hate myself and I want to die? What if I said that? Thanks so much for that question. Thanks so much. Oh, you guys asked me a lot of questions. You're so famous! Fave TV series. Oh, I don't have favourites, but I have comfort TV series that I'm always watching. Every single year I rewatch Young Royals. And every single year I cry. But I love it. I love that show. Every single year I rewatch Young Royals. I also really love Supernatural. I adore Supernatural. It's 15 seasons and I've rewatched that show. I love it. I love that show. New Girl, another comfort show. I just love going back and watching it. It makes me laugh so much. I love silly shows. I love shows that I don't need to pay too much attention to, just because it's like, I like to have shows on in the background. I like to have them on when I'm eating, when I'm cleaning, when I'm tidying, sometimes when I'm working. So I like silly little shows that I've already seen. However, there's a lot of new shows that are coming out that I know I'm going to enjoy a lot. But those three are four. I can't remember the number I said, but those are like my go-to comfort shows that I'm rewatching a lot and I'm recommending to people a lot. Favorite Colleen Hoover book? The one where she announces she's decided to no longer be an author. That's my favorite Colleen Hoover book. If you had to date any animated character, who would it be? Oh my god, there are so many. The fish from Nemo. You know that black and white striped fish with the scar on his lip?
Smash.
Oh my god, that is Daddy if I ever met one. And if he wasn't available, Jake Sully from Avatar. And if he wasn't available, Scar from Lion King. Ooh, ooh. I know what he's done. But she said date, not fall in love with and marry, so. Would you ever publish your own book, and would it be a standalone or a series? So I've actually written a book. I have written a young adult high fantasy. It is, in my opinion, incredible. Dare I stroke my own ego. I've been working on it since October 2021. I've drafted it about maybe 10 times. I've read it maybe 15 times. I've re-edited the first 10 chapters so many more times than I've re-edited the whole book. I've changed it from first person to second person to third person. I've changed the entire plot and the entire storyline. And I really truly believe that the final product is an incredible piece of work. Again, dare I stroke my own ego. I'm really proud of it. And I think I did a really good job with it. And I finalized my final edits of it around 6 months ago, and I'm just nervous and scared. So I am in the process of writing my query letter and querying agents, but it's difficult to find agents. And it can stand alone. However, my dream for it is to be a trilogy. It works as a standalone, but my dream is to make it a trilogy. So the answer is I would publish my own book. I'm just waiting for someone to want to publish it for me, because I would love to go the traditional route, and it is my pride and joy. I actually have like these animated versions of like the characters in my book, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. If you want a full video on my characters, or if you want a full video on my book, let me know and I will do a full video on it. But this is just going to brief. I'm not going to tell you anything about the characters, but I'm just going to show you pictures. So here is Lena Redan. She's the main character. Here is Arrow. His name is actually Ijaz, but he's her younger brother. Here is Noor. Here is Sorith. Here is Ainsley. And here is Morwen. I can tell you everything you want to know about them if you'd like. I'll make another video, but I love this book with my entire heart, and I love all of the characters, and I love the nuances and the little Easter eggs that I've put in that would only be relevant if I do end up making it a series. So one more question, and I'm going to speed through it because I know this video is getting long and no one likes watching long videos, but thank you so much for your comments. She said she wants to know everything with what I'm comfortable to share: work, hobbies, what brightens my day when I feel low. That's the first half. So work, I work in marketing. Hobbies, I have about 1 million of them. Obviously reading, watching TV, music is a hobby of mine, which I know people hate hearing, but like I really do just love sitting and reading lyrics to songs, especially like Hosea lyrics. I love sitting and unpacking that shit. I've recently taken up crochet, and I've been crocheting little book envelopes and little beanies. I used to be obsessed with making rings, but I've stopped because I just haven't had the time. I bake a lot. I bake and I cook a lot. I'm in the kitchen all of the time. I know I did this in my booktube tag, but yeah, I bake cakes, I cook food, I make little videos of them, and I post them on my story a lot. Are those all my hobbies? I have a lot of hobbies that I've lost track of what some of my hobbies are. So currently, at this exact moment in time, those are my current hobbies. What brightens my day when I feel low? When I feel low, I like to curl up in a ball, turn the lights off, and just be sad. But what brightens my day usually would be watching something really, really lighthearted, or just like my family saying something unbelievably stupid that makes me laugh so much, or going out and taking a really long walk and sitting in a tree and just like writing a poem. Oh, writing is one of my hobbies. But obviously, I literally just spoke about a book I wrote, but I also, I've written a poetry book that I self-published. Writing is one of my hobbies. But going for a long walk and sitting in a tree when it's beautiful weather and it's sunny and I can just hear the tree whooshing and I can hear the birds chirping, and just either reading or writing or just listening to music and like looking around me, that is something that will really brighten my day whenever I'm feeling like shit. But also just talking to people. I really love talking to strangers. I spent my entire birthday last year just walking around central London and speaking to strangers because it's what I wanted to do for my birthday. And I get really intense feelings of sonder and this idea that like people exist and have their own complex lives. So having a conversation with a stranger, especially finding out that you have like really random things in common with them, one of my favorite things to do and will always put me in a good mood. 3 things we need to know about Lebanon. I love this. I love getting asked about Lebanon. 3 things we need to know about Lebanon. The people are some of the most hospitable people you will ever meet in your life. You can have one conversation with them and they are likely going to invite you to sit at their table. They're going to invite you to sit, in their house. They're going to invite you over for tea. They're going to cook you something. If you just come over to the house to drop something off, they're going to send you off with a plate of food. They are some of the kindest and most hospitable and most generous people I've ever met, but also simultaneously some of the most crass and just like short-tempered people ever, some of the funniest people ever. So one of the things to know about Lebanon is the people are the best. Number 2, I'm not going to say stuff like the food is incredible. Everyone knows Lebanese food is incredible. Number 2, they really know how to party. Lebanese people really know how to party, and they know how to do it without getting blackout drunk. I don't drink, so I often try not to go out too much with people who get blackout drunk, not because I have a problem with you getting blackout drunk, but just because I don't want to be the only sober person when people are blackout drunk. It's not very fun for me to be sober and everyone around me be wasted. And in Lebanon, when I'm with my friends and we go out, everyone always just drinks to a certain level. They just drink until they're just loose enough or they're happy enough. And everyone, when we go out to a club or a bar, no one approaches me and no one touches me and no one grabs me. Everyone just sort of leaves you alone, which brings me on to actually, I'm not going to make this my 3rd point. I'm going to fit this into the drinking thing. People are so respectful there, especially like or at least this might just be my own personal experience, men are so much more respectful there than they are in the West. Like, I have never felt disrespected in Lebanon in the way that I do when I'm here. I've never felt like an object or a body or just like less than. I've never felt like I needed to speak louder than the men to be heard. I've never felt like I needed to really try to be respected when there's a group of men. They respect you, you know. I'll be if I'm in a situation and a man makes me feel uncomfortable, there's about 10 other men that are probably going to beat the crap out of him for making me feel uncomfortable. If I'm sat in a group and there's loads of men and they are speaking and I decide I want to speak, they are going to turn around and listen to me, which sounds like the absolute bare minimum, but compared to what life is like for me here in London, if I'm in a group of men and they are all speaking and I try to speak, a lot of the time I'm going to have to speak like, and I'm a loud person and I'm a very dominant person and I will put myself in a conversation, especially if I feel like I'm not being heard. But even then, I really need to like emphasize the fact that I'm speaking. And just the way men look at me here and they approach me in public and they make me feel uncomfortable and they really feel like they can just touch you here when they want. Like, why are you trying to get past me in a crowd and your hand is wrapping around my waist? I don't like that. That doesn't happen in Lebanon. So that is number 2. Number 3, it's a lot more diverse than people think it is. Everyone thinks that it is just this like old school, and I hate using these words because what is even wrong with being old school and traditional, but like everyone thinks it's just this like really old school, intensely, aggressively traditional and, you know, just a Muslim country. Lebanon is one of the most diverse places I've ever been. For a country that's this small, there are less people in Lebanon than there are in London, I think. And it's got a huge community of Christian, Muslim, Jewish and Druze people. It's got loads of expats. It's got people with all different types of religions, so many different types of cultures based on the towns that you go to, different types of food based on which part of Lebanon you're in. And I feel like people just have a really warped colonial Western mindset of what Lebanon actually is, when it's one of the best places I've ever been in my entire life. If I could be the author of any existing book, what would it be? Game of Thrones because I'd be rich? No. Well, yes, actually. Game of Thrones because I'd be famous and I'd be rich and everyone would be obsessed with my work. But in terms of just like a really incredible book that I've read that I would love to have been able to write, either This Is How You Lose the Time War because you really need brains to write it's a reminder for me to book my Pilates class. It would either be that or it would be Circe by Madeline Miller, because I feel like that writing and the way that she was able to tell a woman's story with it just being the woman's story was incredible. And also I would say The Hunger Games. But again, that might just be because it's so close to my heart. But that is all of the questions. Thank you so much for submitting all of them. I genuinely didn't think that many people would submit and ask that many questions. I really appreciate them. And thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. And stay tuned for more videos. Goodbye.